He was once the kid everyone laughed at, the one they called a loser, invisible in the classroom, forgotten in the halls. Years later, his old classmates invited him back, but not to reconnect, to humiliate him all over again. They thought nothing had changed, that he was still the same boy they once mocked. But what they didn't know was that he carried a secret, a fortune so massive it would flip the power dynamic in seconds. How did the class loser go from shame to 100 million? This is the story they never saw coming. It had been 5 long years since high school ended, but for Alex, the memories hadn't faded. Back then, he was the quiet one, the kid who never had the right clothes, who carried second-hand books, who sat alone at lunch. To most of his classmates, he wasn't just overlooked. He was ridiculed, the easy target for cruel jokes and whispered laughter. They had branded him the class loser, and for a time, he believed it. But life has a way of reshaping people. After graduation, Alex disappeared from their world. While his classmates posted about college parties, vacations, and promotions, he stayed silent, grinding in the background. The boy they had once written off was building something they could never imagine. Now, years later, a class reunion invitation appeared. The same faces who once mocked him reached out, pretending to extend a friendly hand. On the surface, it looked like nostalgia, but behind the smiles there was a hidden motive. Whispers spread in their private chats. Let's see if he's still the same nobody. Alex read the invitation carefully. He knew their intentions, but instead of declining, he decided to go. Not for revenge, not for validation, but to walk into that room and show, without a single word, just how wrong they had been. He arrived that evening quietly, blending into the background. None of them noticed, at least not yet. They had no idea the man they were about to mock again was no longer the boy they remembered. He was now worth $100 million. The reunion hall buzzed with chatter and laughter as old classmates gathered, drinks in hand, reminiscing about the good old days. Alex walked in unnoticed at first, dressed sharply but not flamboyantly, blending into the sea of familiar faces. For a brief moment, it almost felt normal, but normal was never what awaited him here. A group in the corner spotted him. Their laughter grew louder. "Look who actually showed up," one of them smirked, their voices dripping with sarcasm. Whispers rippled through the room, eyes narrowing as if confirming that the same quiet boy, the so-called nobody, had dared to return. At first, they pretended to be polite. Handshakes, half-hearted smiles, and questions laced with condescension. "So, what are you doing with yourself these days?" someone asked, emphasizing the "these days" as if expecting a disappointing answer. He kept his responses short, calm, and controlled. He didn't need to boast. He let them believe what they wanted to believe. But the more he stood there, the more the arrogance surfaced. Old habits die hard. One classmate laughed loudly, retelling stories of high school pranks, how Alex had been the butt of every joke. The group roared, oblivious to the cruelty of their words, their eyes occasionally darting toward him, checking for a reaction. Another raised a glass, mockingly toasting to the one who never quite fit in. The air grew thicker with each jab, each reminder of the past. Some looked uncomfortable, sensing the cruelty, but no one spoke up. The dynamic was clear. The same hierarchy that existed in high school had been resurrected in this room. And Alex, in their eyes, was still at the bottom. Yet beneath his calm exterior, something shifted. He wasn't the broken teenager they remembered. He had built an empire, turned failures into lessons, and created a life far beyond their comprehension. But instead of revealing it outright, he chose patience. He let them laugh, let them underestimate him, let them believe their illusion. Until the moment came, A conversation about careers erupted, with classmates boasting about promotions, new cars, and vacations. Their laughter filled the air as they mocked him again, tossing barbed comments disguised as friendly banter. And then someone asked the question, the one that would flip the night upside down. "So, Alex, what do you do for a living?" The question hung in the air, followed by a silence that seemed louder than the laughter before it. Every eye turned toward Alex, waiting. Some expected an awkward pause, maybe a fumbling answer about a modest job. They were ready to pounce, to smirk, to remind him of his place. But Alex didn't flinch. His voice was steady, almost casual, as he replied, "I run a company." A few chuckles broke out. "A company? Doing what? Selling used laptops online?" someone sneered. Another leaned in, grinning. "Come on, don't leave us hanging. What kind of company could you possibly run?" Alex didn't boast. He didn't raise his voice. He pulled out his phone, opened a news article, and placed it on the table. The headline flashed beneath the glow of the lights. "Tech startup crosses 100 million valuation." And just below it, his name, founder and CEO. The room fell silent. Smirks vanished. Laughter froze in their throats. One by one, faces shifted from amusement to disbelief, from arrogance to unease. The same people who once dismissed him as a loser now stared at him as if they were seeing him for the first time. Someone stammered, "Wait, this is you?" Alex nodded lightly, not with pride, but with certainty. He didn't need to gloat. The truth was enough. The roles had reversed, and the so-called loser had become the most successful person in the room. The weight of reality crashed over them. Every cruel joke, every mocking word from the past suddenly hung heavy in the silence, and for the first time that evening, no one dared to laugh. Alex glanced around the room, his calm gaze meeting theirs. He had nothing left to prove. The boy they once mocked was gone. In his place stood a man who had built a life far beyond their reach. The reunion carried on, but the energy in the room was no longer the same. The classmates who once mocked Alex now avoided his gaze, their arrogance replaced by awkward silence. A few tried to recover with nervous laughter, offering empty congratulations. Still, the sting of their own actions hung in the air. Alex didn't gloat. He didn't remind them of their cruelty or demand apologies. Instead, he remained composed, speaking with a quiet confidence that came not from money, but from growth. He knew the true victory wasn't the wealth he had built. It was the fact that he no longer needed their approval. When the evening ended, Alex stepped outside into the cool night air. Behind him, the same people who once defined him as a loser were left to confront their own shallow judgments. For Alex, it was never about revenge. It was about rising above the voices that tried to hold him down. In the end, success didn't erase the pain of the past, but it redefined it. What was once humiliation had become fuel. What was once rejection had turned into resilience. His story wasn't just about money. It was about the power of perseverance and the reminder that the opinions of others never measure worth. Somewhere out there, countless others are still being laughed at, dismissed, or underestimated. And maybe they too will one day prove everyone wrong, not by shouting louder, but by quietly building a life no one can ignore. So the question remains, how many more losers will the world overlook before realizing that greatness often grows in silence?